Good afternoon, everyone. Um, we designed this session to be face to face, basically. Unfortunately, my colleagues, Somat, who is joining online, and Kathy did not receive their visas in time for the session. So you're stuck with me. Uh, but um, but they will be joining online, right? Um, we'll take the presentation first. But before anything else, um, me, Somat, and Kathy are actually part of the Local Networks initiative being implemented by the Association for Progressive Communications and Rhizomatica. It's a global project around community networks in three continents, Africa, Latin America, and Asia. So in Asia, we compose the Asia team. I manage policy and regulations. Ahmad manages capacity building, and Kathy manages gender, right? We also have with us our colleague Bads from Isaiah Communications, who will be assisting the session. We're based in an organization called the Institute for Social Entrepreneurship in Asia. Um, while Ahmad is based in Jakarta, Kathy and I are actually based in the Philippines. Uh, let's see if I can make this work. Yes. Just to introduce the three organizations who are organizing the session. So we come from the Institute for Social Entrepreneurship in Asia. We do social entrepreneurship development across 22 countries and territories in Asia and the Pacific. We're also a member of the Association for Progressive Communications. And as I've said, some of our work time are dedicated to implementing the local networks initiative in Asia. And then the models that you will see basically today, they're actually part of a model building project that was funded by AP Foundation. Um, that's why their logo is also part of the organizers. In terms of the flow of the session, this afternoon we'll talk of digital inclusion, and then we'll go straight to capacity building of community network, community centered connectivity initiatives, and AI. We have some experience from the School of Community Networks in Indonesia, as well as some models around a weather assisting device, as well as an IoT system in a coffee roasting machine. Um, in the Philippines. And then the we go to gender and connectivity. We have a Bangladesh model, which will be explained later. And then there's also another Indonesia model looking at um, gender and connectivity in Common Room Foundation, one of the implementers of. Yeah, I think it's okay. Yeah, and then there are other two models which we will be presenting, which is sources for action, as well as the Philippine Rural Reconstruction Network model, and then we move to Q&A. Um, just some perspectives around the need for digital inclusion. While the Digital Citizen Summit this year is focused around artificial intelligence, um, maybe we need to step back for a bit to say that AI advances can still can deepen existing inequalities. Addressing digital inclusion is vital for fair access to technology, and this is where equity is essential. And then around collaborations, where partnerships among tech companies, nonprofits, and government entities to create inclusive digital access initiatives is imperative. And then there's also this dimension around policy advocacy, where we need to maybe grapple up with a lot of policy um, to govern AI as we move into this very important aspect of our digital empowerment, right? Um, and then just a just as a prelude, as we will be speaking from the point of view of community centered connectivity initiatives, um, really empowering communities, engaging communities where there's active involvement of local stakeholders to understand unique challenges as well as co create relevant solutions, including AI. And you will see later some models where even grassroots communities actually use AI in these models. Yeah. There's also around comprehensive education and training by developing accessible programs to enhance digital skills, focusing on coding, digital literacy, as well as online safety for marginalized groups. And then there's this perspective around design for accessibility by prioritizing the creation of AI solutions that are user friendly, accessible to individuals with disabilities, as well as elderly and other sectors, ensuring that no one is left behind. So, with this, I'd like to call on Masomat Ahmad to actually start the conversation around connectivity initiatives and AI integration, especially in the case of the School of Community Networks in Indonesia. Over to you, Somat.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Can you hear
Yes,
me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Then we can proceed.
Okay.
Um, Now I turn over to
Okay.
my colleague Somat to actually share perspectives around connectivity initiatives and AI integration, especially in the experience of the School of Community Networks in Indonesia. Over to you, Somat.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kumar. First thing first, I would like to apologize to joining online. I supposed to join in person, but due to administrative issue, so I participating online now. Thank you and good afternoon, everyone from Indonesia. My name is Ahmad Safruddin. You can call me Somat actually, and I'm the Asia Capacity Building Coordinator for LockNet. Today, I'm excited to present our initiatives on connectivity and AI integration for climate resilience and community empowerment across Southeast Asia. We will explore projects in Indonesia and the Philippines that address climate change, digital divide, and sustainable development. Our efforts span several regions, as you can see in the slide, that each there are actually 12 locations across uh, uh, island, each with unique challenges and opportunity. From Jayapura Regency in Papua, that you can see in your right side in the map, and to Papua and Bali that you can see in your left side. Our project focus on leveraging technology to empower local communities. These sites were chosen for their strategic importance and the potential for impactful outcomes. So basically, this location is in the rural area with a lack of connectivity and or underserved community. Next slide, please. Hello. Okay. So actually, we developed this kind of framework or principle on the community-centered connectivity. So we have the 5L principle. So it is low tech, low energy, low maintenance, low learning curve, and also local support. So low tech mean the technology should be affordable in terms of the economic and for the local community. And then low energy, since in the rural area, there also coincide with the lack of electricity. So having this low energy technology, would help local community to develop such technology. And then low maintenance means that local community should be able to maintain in terms of the affordability and the cost of the maintenance. And then low learning curve means that it is easy to, the technology should be easy to follow, easy to understand by the local community. And local support means that um, there should be available local technician to be the local support because rural area mostly having the challenge for in terms of the geographical challenge. So uh, that's why in our design of the program for the community, for the capacity building, we try to develop the local technician as the local support for the entire community. And there's also the principle of legal and then meaningful connectivity. In this meaningful connectivity, this is actually that we try to integrate the connectivity with the AI or IoT solution so that we could use the connectivity as a service for the entire community. And to tackle connectivity challenge, we have developed community-centered model in Indonesia. We will try to share with you the weather station initiative links to AI and IoT to the real-world climate needs. And in the Philippines, an IoT system for coffee roasting addresses economic and environmental concern. Both initiatives highlight the importance of tailoring solution to local context. And yes, this example of the initiative in Indonesia, the weather station initiative. So the Indonesia climate crisis affect livelihood, especially in agriculture and fishing. The Collapse project raises climate awareness and support grassroots adoption. By linking weather pattern to tangible community impacts, it creates a collaborative research and innovation platform for sustainable solution. Next slide, please. Moving forward, that this we have active sites like Pulau Aceh in Aceh in Sumatra Island and also Maros in Sulawesi Island. Coordinated by Common Room in Bandung. This station, this is a weather station that station that collect and analyze climate data. In the future, we currently in the process to integrate with AI that help predict weather impact. This project is not only strengthen local knowledge but also paves the way to broader AI and IoT adoption. Next slide, please. And then in the Philippines, we have this example of the implementation of AI, community network and AI and IoT solution. In, in the Philippines, there is a Philippine Coffee Alliance empower farmers and women entrepreneurs through community-based coffee roasting. This locally developed initiatives uses IoT for efficient AI-driven coffee roasting, contributing to community-driven economic development and sustainability. Okay, next slide, please. Hello, next slide, please.
This is the next slide, Sumat.
Okay. So, despite the sparse internet connectivity in the Philippines, LoRaWAN system was deployed for data transmission. Practical mentorship helps overcome literacy barriers. The project not only enhances efficiency but also builds digital literacy and youth engagement, ensuring long-term sustainability. Next slide, please. And that project actually that community the example of integration the community network and the AI and IoT solution uh, in terms of developing the capacity of the community we developed the so-called school of community network. I am to uh, build the community capacity in terms of the technology. So the ASEAN program launched in 2021. We try to bridge the digital divide in rural Indonesia and also in the Philippines. We've trained over 647 participants in community network development so far with the digital literacy in IoT application. So local resources like bamboo towers and solar power are used to develop sustainable internet infrastructure. And ASEAN focus area around the digital literacy and secure internet use and technical skill for managing network. We also focus on IoT solution for disaster mitigation, like early warning system and agriculture support, ensuring that community are equipped with to handle emergencies. Next slide, please. So finally, our work integrate a wide network of stakeholders from local communities to policymakers. We address issues like human rights, meaningful community, and disaster risk reduction. Collaboration between public and private sectors is essential to drive innovation and sustainability. So to conclude this community network initiative and AI and IoT solution, this project exemplify how community-driven connectivity and AI integration can bring transformative change by combining local knowledge with technology. We can empower communities to build climate resilience and foster sustainable development. Thank you, and I look forward to any question in the Q&A session. Over to you, Kumar. Thank you.
Thank you, Masomat. I hope you can hear the claps. And please stay on for the Q&A session. I'd also like to advise our audience to please hold on to your questions. Let's move now. I'll pass on the mic to my colleague Kathy. Um, Kathy, maybe you can also introduce yourself again before diving into the gender dimension of community-centered connectivity initiatives and AI.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kathy Chongson. I am based in the Philippines with the Institute of Social Entrepreneurship in HSAT. And I am currently one of the regional coordinators of LOCNET in charge of gender integration in HSAT. So, um, first, I would like to apologize for not being there on site as I have problems with my visa since last week. So I'm sorry. So I'm happy now that I am able to participate here online. So this afternoon, I would like to share some perspectives and our experiences on meaningful connectivity and gender. So we believe that internet has a great potential for economic opportunity and social empowerment. It can break barriers for those held back because of geography, wealth, race, class, and gender. While it has improved life to many, it fell short also of beating back inequality. Typical marginalized groups are less likely to have internet access when they are on, and when they are online, they fall. They face additional challenges in using its full potential, such as time, financial constraints, poor service availability, and quality and lack of digital skills. Therefore, we look at connectivity as both a consequence and a cause of broader inequality. We believe that if we want to achieve our goal of fairer digital future, we need to ensure meaningful connectivity among people and genders. For LockNet, for local network initiative, we look at the importance of addressing gender issues in our community-centered connectivity work. In our experience, next slide please, yes. In our experience tells us that there are layers of gender integration work and women engagement in community-centered connectivity initiatives. First, the first layer is we want to engage women in communities to understand and to provide support on issues related to access issues such as literacy, digital literacy, access access to device, affordability, and access points, as well as to ensure online inclusion by promoting relevant content, language, and protection from online violence. The second layer is about engaging and supporting women who are part of the support group by implementing trainers training to develop technical skills and ensure continuous learning through supporting the School of Community Network, as mentioned by Sumat earlier, and also fiber training and space mentoring program for women in ICT. While also we want to engage men, no, so that they also support the initiatives of the women. The third layer is we also want to document experiences and best practices, or even develop community practice related to gender integration. The third layer is also we want to contribute in enabling ecosystem for gender integration at the policy level. So we want to ensure that there are spaces for women in regulatory discussion and also forward policy recommendations that addresses gender issues in digital spaces. Recently, next slide, please. Yes. Recently, I participated in a solidarity circle in Indonesia. This is actually part of our work in understanding what are the roles of women in the CCI, what are the challenges that they face, and what are the recommendations that they want to pursue with us. So, in relation to the roles, I saw that women are the leaders, handles partnership development, community organizers, and provide technical and administrative support. In terms of challenges in Indonesia, because the women are still have difficulty in leaving their respective houses because of unpaid care and domestic work and other responsibilities. They have limited opportunity to become leaders or learn technical skills, not leadership or organizational development. They also looking at maximizing government programs and resources to address their specific needs, especially the occurrences of gender-based violence and child marriages in their community. They want also to maximize digital skills for livelihood and learning, addressing the negative results and on connectivity such as online gambling, online violence, and bad influences. So some of the recommendations that they actually put forward are supporting the development of the role of women in CCI, ensuring partnership and ensuring spaces for participation of women and focus on capacity building for women. Next year, the LockNet team will be actually launching exciting activities for gender integration to support women in ICT, like the SPACE program and the mentoring program. Next slide, please. So let me now share with you some CCI initiatives and gender. I will be sharing two models. Okay. I will be sharing two models. The first model is the community network and social enterprise model in the crafts value chain in Bangladesh. This model is being implemented where the main stakeholders are the Foundation for Architecture and Community Equity or FACE, Procter 3, a social enterprise in Bangladesh, and the marginalized women artisans in Cox's Bazar. And it is being supported by ISEA and APNIC. Procter 3 is a fair trade organization engaged in the craft value chain that serves as market channels in the products of the marginalized communities in Bangladesh. The FACE Bangladesh team established a cellular router system for the marginalized women in 4 communities in Ukhia Cox's Bazar. The women artisans are actually located in 4 communities. Hatinguna, Shonarpara, Balubalo, Khalil, and Fuliapara communities. So this initiative was implemented from January 2023 to September 2024. So it's really a very new model. It's a piloting initiative actually by ISEA and these organizations. Um, in terms of the technical description, they installed cellular router system linked to a major mobile operator network with online and offline capability to facilitate the connection and coordination of women artisans cooperative in 4 communities with stakeholders in the value chain. The other intervention include organizational development towards cooperative building, providing trainings, product development, and linkage to product designers, quality checkers, and other market channels. They also provide digital literacy, e-commerce, and online marketplace. Next slide, please. So, what are the observable change in the last more than a year of implementation? No? It was observed that there are new and dramatic increase in revenue streams among the women artisans in Cox's Bazar. For example, in Shunapara, there's an increase of 2.5 times the regular income. And then in Hatinguna, there's a 7.7 times increase of their income for the period of 5 months. At the level of the social enterprise, there was also savings that were seen, no? Because of the reduction in travel costs for face-to-face coordination and trainings, they were able to save some resources. And it also helped them in effective decision making. There's also improved digital literacy and access to internet platforms by the women artisans, improved product quality and reducing costs, and improved access to market because they have constant communication with their designer and market. Enhanced participation of women youth as stakeholders in digital economy. Some challenges and opportunities that are seen. Um, Strengthening partnership between the community and SE. This is something that they need to hurdle to address sustainability. And then they also looking at exploring the use of universal service fund and permitting the use of licensing spectrum Wi-Fi. Next slide, please. Another model is the Community Network Initiative in Kasipuhan, Chipta Gilar in Indonesia. So the main actors or stakeholders of this initiative is the Common Room Foundation, the Association of Progressive Communications, and AWINET. Common Room handles the coordination responsibility, develop the conceptual framework and operation, manages partnership and finance and administration of the initiative. No? The Kasipuhan Ciptagilar in West Java, Indonesia community is the main recipient of the internet service. They also do resource mobilization, gathers local support, and they do voucher distribution and technical assistance. The AwiNet is a registered ISP company in charge of providing local internet infrastructure development, bandwidth and licensing and support and maintenance. ABC, on the other hand, provided technical support and provision of grant. Next slide. Yeah, that one. Okay. In terms of the intervention, um, the Kasipuhan Chiptagilar used the mesh network. The stakeholders set up four wireless backhaul links built on towers made of bamboo, as you can see in the picture, and a mesh network in 13 hamlets, each with several access points, creating a hub and spoke network. Each backhaul can run at 1 gigabyte per second and with one hub or satellite link. Currently, in 2004, they have 542 public Wi-Fi hotspots and 10 private ones. The business model secured wholesale internet for the village and facilitated its financial sustainability as the village became resellers of internet vouchers. Next slide, please. So in terms of significant impact, there are four significant impacts that were seen in this model. No? The community have better adaptation at the community on climate-related challenges. So it was in a disaster risk management and adaptation to environmental challenges that positive impacts of connectivity and the provision of government services to the community was felt the most. The use of modern devices in monitoring tsunami and other disaster risks, and the use of internet and information exchange and dissemination made disaster management faster and broader in reach by preventing the loss of lives and property and the wider extension of aid to the survivors. The second impact that is seen is the improvement in the economic condition of the community stakeholders. Actually, the intervention resulted in greater number of economic activities, such as proliferation of online trading and shopping platforms. It created new business for existing micro entrepreneurs and created new micro entrepreneurs as well. So it generates employment through their distributors and resellers, which also led to greater consumption by individuals and households. And the third impact that is seen is more effective preservation of cultural integrity, identity, and heritage. The impact of connectivity on the preservation and promotion of indigenous people's culture, which they had been aiming for even before the establishment of the CCI, went beyond the actual numbers of the villagers using the facilities. The production of local content, for example, as well as the teaching of their language in a formal education system, benefited the entire indigenous community and the next generation. And the last impact that it's seen is the increased level of and capacities for inclusive human development and community empowerment, resulting to narrowing of gender gaps. No? Because of the intervention, women's connectivity increased from 30% to 50% over the years. Opportunity for them to connect with other other people outside of their community, and also it provided opportunity to learn new things. It also provided economic opportunity for women because they were mobilized to distribute vouchers to their community members. It also became a vehicle for them to manage their engagement in the internet and maximize the benefit and address their specific needs. Next slide, please. In conclusion, the nexus of gender and connectivity is a space where we can maximize our intervention as development workers and digital activists. The different models shown provided potential of how CCI can work and support women participation and meaningful connectivity, and how it can be best evolved and developed. Much is still needed to be done to ensure depth of impact and addressing barriers that hamper women and people's meaningful connectivity. Unless women and people are equally able to benefit from it, the gender divide risks driving further inequality. So thank you very much. That ends my presentation for the day.
Thank you, Kathy. That's a very comprehensive, what do you call this, discussion of the two models. And continuing on to our study so that we can just, to our presentation so that we can wrap up this segment and we can actually interact with the audience. Um, the initial models that were presented from the Philippine Coffee Alliance IoT system, even the common room model, and the Bangladesh model with the Foundation for Architecture and Community Equity, these are all part of a, what do you call this, of a project called Model Building of Community Networks linked to social enterprise and local economic development, supported by the APNIC Foundation. They're also here, and I think I need to mention them because they also paid for my plane fare to come here and be with you this afternoon. Moving on, the other model is actually a China model implemented by one of our partners called Sources for Action in China. Their social enterprise model integrates an eco-cultural tourism with the provision of sustainable livelihood centered on promoting regenerative rice-based agriculture in the Dong indigenous culture in the southern part of China. You see where in China, where connectivity and access is not an issue, this model actually builds around the development of an app attached to WeChat, where they can actually share what do you call this? They can share best practices in agriculture as well as cultural practices. And this is shared through the WeChat app to engage dwellers in the cities and to attract them to visit the Dong villages. They are exemplifying that meaningful connectivity can be about enabling the community to develop a virtual repository of their indigenous knowledge systems. In this case, they actually have control of what they can share through the app, but they actually but they build a repository of everything so that it's not lost over time. The project is also supported the development of an app to share such knowledge, better promote their cultural events, and enhance the marketing of their products and services to the virtual world. Um, and then finally, our last model is actually around the Kayapa Organic Producers Association. This is in partnership with the Philippine Rural Reconstruction Movement, where COPA, or the Organic Smallholder Farmers, benefited from a Starlink setup within two barangays in the municipality of Kayapa. That's the barangays Pangawan and Tidang. And the main benefit so far felt by stakeholders was greater efficiency in terms of coordination and communications between and among farmers in COPA and their social enterprise enabler called Vizcaya Fresh Incorporated. Um, I'm not sure if you can see the photos, but those are the organic farms of COPA. And I think this ends our presentation. Also, I'd like to acknowledge my boss, Lisa Dacanayo, is also joining online this afternoon. In the interest of time, we can now move to questions and answers with, and also inviting back Kathy and Somat. Um,
Yeah, thank you so much, Kumar. We open the session to the audience. If any of you have questions, uh, yeah,
yes. Maybe let's take three questions.
yeah, okay.
Good.
My question may be a little odd, not exactly odd. There is something like futuristics.
Mhm.
All corporates across the world, they have a futuristic division. Going back to the futuristic studies, where will AI land the mankind across the world in the coming 20 years? Any approximate guess, estimate from your organization? Thank you.
Sorry, we're really just coming into our own digital transformation as well. So we did not yet map our direction towards 20 years in the future and how do we but we recognize the importance of that's why we're working around digital divide because we recognize the importance of digitalization, most especially to the relevant publics that we have, for example, the marginalized and poor communities, as well as the social enterprises that assist them in their transformation journey. Um, Maybe we can have this conversation continued, and probably in our next visit to India, we have a better framing of how we look at 20 years into this digital journey. Yeah,
Question.
yeah.
Just wanted to know all the models which you had presented and your colleagues had presented. What is the role of the governments in that? Is it a public, private ownership? It's funded by the government, or it's totally in the private and non-government space?
Thank you for that question. Initially, as we were developing the models, it's principally funded by the non-government space, right? Through ISEA, through APNIC Foundation. But of course, we realize that partnerships and collaborations, as well as these initiatives, also need support from government in terms of scaling up, in terms of policy initiatives, or even in terms of capacity building. Because in some of the models, for example, in Nueva Vizcaya, in the Kayapa Organic Farmers, Organic Producers Association, they actually have partnered with a local university, which is a government university. So in a sense, and as we look as we look at partnerships and collaborations moving forward, it's not really just the NGOs, but it's really together with the private sector, together with governments and other relevant stakeholders. Probably some of my colleagues online can share their perspectives as well, or even Miss Lisa. So, Matt, I see you opened your camera.
Yes, I would like to share some of the models in yeah, that actually we have um, some different kind of model. For example, like we have village-owned enterprise that they developing a community network to serve their local community. So yeah, regarding the question, so there are actually we need to localize and also contextualize because there are several locations with their unique challenges. So we need to contextualize the models. For example, like there is uh, we have model with the indigenous community in uh, Ngatatoro. It's located in Sulawesi, Central Sulawesi actually. That the model is developed by the um, that village-owned enterprise. So yes, so there are different model, and we need to localize and contextualize with the situation and condition. Over to you, Homer.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Also to say, sir, that it's various levels of government as well, right? The local government units, and then you have the provincial governments, and then you have national government agencies, as well as policymakers in Congress, right? So those are also nuanced in terms of how we engage them as partners and collaborators in the multiple models that we are that are still developing. actually. Any more questions?
Thank you, Homer. So I was just wondering because you essentially work with the communities, right? And it's true for across the spaces. So how do we kind of, when we engage with the community, how do we really decode that the very fact that it alienates people a bit regarding the technicalities, the jargon, the very aura around technicalities part of it? How do we then break that ice while communicating with that to the community? That's I think the preliminary. I think the breaking that thing barrier that can need to overcome. Yeah.
Yeah, you see, the beauty of the model building project is that we didn't go straight to the communities. We have enablers, or we call meso organizations. For example, the Philippine Roller Construction Movement before we went to the Kayapa Organic Producers Association, right? Or we went through a social enterprise called Procrity, and then an NGO called the Foundation for Architecture and Community Equity, before they actually scouted for the villages, right? So in a sense, the relationship between, and if you see the the enablers that we have engaged with, it's not their first time to actually engage marginalized and poor communities. So that the trust building, as well as even in localization of terms and jargons and all. If you also notice, most of our partners here in the model building project are not technical experts of community-centered connectivity initiatives. We actually try to learn as we go in implementing the models, as we develop them. So it's really also a joint, what do you call this, learning experience, both for the marginalized and communities, as well as the meso organizations.
Thank you so much, Kumar. Yeah. Do we have any more questions? Anyone from? Yeah. I think it's almost time. So yeah,
Yeah,
we
so
can.
thank you again. I will be here until tomorrow. So if you have any questions around the models that we have presented, or even earlier in the session that I had moderated at CNX, please approach me or approach some of our friends. We have the APNIC Foundation. We also have APC here, Avi, and we also have colleagues like Sarbani. Um, I saw her earlier today. But again, thank you very much, and we look forward to engaging you more in the future. Thank you as well to Somat, to Bads, to Lisa for joining us online. Good
Thank you so
afternoon,
much.
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.